Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by TIE Software, the battle station for freight brokers. Your TMS should be viewed as a tool to help you execute at a high level in any freight market. With TIE, brokers gain access to a comprehensive platform that has rate intelligence and quoting history converged down to a single screen. TIE also equips your team with all the data they need to confidently negotiate pricing while also allowing them to communicate directly with both carriers and customers from a single command center. With most of your tasks automated through multiple integrations, your team can focus on making strategic decisions and not manual ones. Are you looking to revolutionize your brokerage by giving them a competitive advantage through automation? Visit www.tiesoftware.com/battlestation to learn more. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is a Freight Coach podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, you guys, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Sunny Sharma says, good morning on this cold ass morning, Freight Freaks. Yeah, man, it is. It's like 50 degrees here in Phoenix this morning. It sucks. I am soft now. I need that hot weather out here. But speaking of hot weather, this guy is not from an area of warm weather at all right now, but he has a lot of hot takes out there on the insurance world and kind of what's going on out there. He is the resident insurance expert that comes on the show and breaks all this down. So I got my man Cam with Valley Trucking Insurance back on the show. Cam, it has been far too long, my friend. What is up, brother?
Hey, what up, brother? How you doing?
Oh, man, just, trying to manage my expectations about what's going on right now, because there's all this talk out there about how what's going to happen in the market. Is 2025 going to change things? And I am of the camp that it is nowhere near going to be an improvement. Like, yeah, you're going to start seeing some pockets here and there, but like this recovery and everything that everybody's looking for, or like kind of that silver bullet, it's not there. And maybe I just trained my mind that way because like I've built both of my businesses up from nothing. So like I don't ever look for anything other than myself to perform and know that that's where the results are really going to come from. But that's kind of where my head's at, man. And what's your sentiment on that? How do you process those things?
Well, I walked outside and it was like 20 something degrees this morning. So I'm fucking cold because I brought my daughter to school. You're talking about 50, dude. I'd be golfing if it was 50 degrees, bro. So I don't even want to hear that. No, likewise, man. I built up from scratch as well. And I started in 07, 08, which if you recall was like one of the last depressions as well, doing truckers and construction and contractor insurance. And so kind of the similar, if not same vein. And you can only control what you can control. I do think there'll be a slight increase just based on perception, right? People are happy. There's a lot of things that are going to be passed and pushed initiative wise, we hope, and we feel like is going to happen, which I think will loosen up the maybe fear saving, right? People actually start moving money again, spending money again, which I think obviously can't do anything but be a positive. But as far as when that occurs, I don't know. And on insurance, you're going to see like a residual effect of the last few years still wash over. So it's going to be some time till you see a correction on the insurance. I know that's been a topic in some of the transportation news recently of just really high costing insurance, right? Just on averages and stuff like that. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but yeah.
I would love to hear a couple of those reasons, man, because I just had to renew my commercial policy here. And obviously, as a business owner, I have a work truck and then my business insurance that, for all the equipment and everything in here. And why do premiums increase every year? Like, why don't insurance providers, and I know this isn't you, the agent.
No, I know.
But why don't insurance providers like reward their people by not increasing their shit? Because I feel like every time somebody does that, that just opens up the door for me to go look in another direction.
Yeah, I think it does. I think, man, this goes back to when I was 16. You first bought insurance for yourself. I think when you hit 23, there was like a year where maybe it went down. And then every year since it kind of went back up. Like, I don't know if that's a wives' tale where it's like, your insurance will continue to go down. Now, I kind of joke about that. I do have clients that actually do see reductions in this environment and market. And I do see some, consider it, if you get less than a 10% increase off your insurance in the current environment, that's good. Sit tight. Like, there's like literally no issues. You start seeing the 20, 30, we've got folks that saw and got impacted with 60, 70% increases off what they're paying. Now, obviously, from a freight brokerage, from a business owner that has just like a brick and mortar bot policy to a actual asset company where they've got, trucks on the road and that kind of stuff. There's different levels within each of those, and there's different ways that you can improve or be aggressive or hedge. And as a business owner, if you think like a business owner, especially on the insurance piece, it is a little bit of a variable kind of year to year, but you can set it as like a percentage, because a lot of those type of policies, especially freight brokers, what you do is going to be based on revenue. Right. Yeah. You'd be charged per revenue times X. Right. So you just figure out what percentage that looks like. You allocate that on the P&L. Truckers, trucking companies, a little bit different, right? Because what they do impacts it drastically, from safety, out of service, claims, tickets, violations, who they hire, how their company's set up. Do they embrace technologies with, forward, rear facing cameras, 360 cameras? There's a bunch of things. And it's not like they do all this and they get a discount. They do all this and it's a culture thing and it's a training thing and it's all these things that will impact total profitability and insurability in the long run that will impact those premiums, whether good or bad. It'll keep it stable, bring it down, or you're going to see those things go up and up and up. And then they, unfortunately, sometimes will go out of business because they can't afford the insurance, right? But it's a product of everything. They just attack insurance because it's a big piece of their P&L, and it's something that nobody particularly enjoys buying. And it's one of the things you buy that you just pray you never use. But those that do get it, and it saves them from, potentially bankrupting themselves or losing their business, they value it, right? There's a reason that you should have it. You've talked about this a ton of times.
No, absolutely. And I'm not here to say that people need to get rid of their insurance at all. On the contrary to that. But I think like this is just another piece of like, I don't think insurance is a fixed cost at all. I think it's a fucking variable cost. If I'm being honest with you on the P&L, And because it's like, I'm looking at it and, I just did the math. And again, I always like to preface things like I went to public school here, you guys. So, but it was about a 20% increase year over year here is what my policy got hit with. And, that's like an extra $2,000 to my P&L that I have to account for now over the next 12 months. And again, I know that some people might hear that and be like, oh, I wish, but like, I'm a small business, as and then you take that out there to the driver community as well. There's so many drivers out there that they have the clean records, they have everything dialed in. And then they're like, why does my shit keep increasing? I don't have claims. I don't have a speeding ticket. I didn't even sneeze at a scale this year. Why is my stuff going up? And because it's like that, I think that, again, all this talk that, is the market going to get better? That doesn't change your premiums right now, because I look at things in the present, the present value.
Yeah.
What is that going to do? And then how does that change how I approach the next 12 months?
Yeah. I think you take the lens out a touch, because like it will improve if the market gets better, the investment rates get better. You'll see, and then traditionally in the past, you'll see a lot more aggressive rates because of profitability for the insurance companies on how they diversify their investments and funds that they handle at a top level.
Yep.
But I don't know. There's so many things from like reinsurance. So insurance companies buy insurance. When you get world disasters, natural disasters, wars, things that occur with elections, politics, all these different things do affect it, because reinsurance is basically big boys betting and covering the bets, right? They're using their money to insure the actual insurance companies. So when California is on fire every year, Oregon, Washington,
Are we talking about actual wildfires?
Wildfires, yeah. We're going with like
not dumpster fire.
Not dumpster fires, but true fires. Those things, whether you like it or not, do impact, and they might not directly impact like, hey, per se, like, hey, there's a fire, all of a sudden your rate went up, but it impacts on a global economic scale, and insurance operates globally. These are all just businesses, right? They're connected in. Reinsurance at a top level. Some are small. You'll end up with smaller regional companies, which tend to be pretty good until they experience issues. Then all of a sudden their rates go significantly up. They quit writing people, or in like the driver market or asset side, they pull out completely, where they had this great price and all of a sudden the insurance company's gone, or they can't cover the claims. Like, where all of a sudden it's like, what's more expensive, having expensive insurance or having no coverage in the event of a claim? Like, there becomes a fine line there. So,
dude, absolutely. Right. But I think that, this is one of those things where, as much as I want to minimize my expenses on my P&L and increase profitability, because, that's why I'm in business, is, to make money.
Yep.
What is there, like, what's a strategy some of these drivers can do to work on maybe minimizing the increase? Or is there any behaviors or something that they can start doing today? Because, I'm using this as the time of year where, January is probably, could be renewal season. And for a lot of providers, or, any month is really, depends on when they go in. But like, what are some steps, or what are some strategies that fleets, small carriers, owner ops can be looking at doing right now to maybe help minimize a potential increase here for 2025?
Yeah. So the owner operators really focused on maintenance, vehicle maintenance, proactive approach, like minimizing any out of service or negative inspections. Those things carry so much weight. Like, I know people think, hey, it's a brake line, or this might not be an issue, but like, what's a cause of accidents, right? Failure of brakes or preventable crashes. Those things are huge. So like proactive, aggressive safety driving, I guess, right? Like, where you're not speeding too fast. I know people have deadlines. People have things going on. Distractions are at an all-time high with like phones and dings and rings and pings and all the different things that a driver could face on the road. So like the owner ops, it's like imperative that they just treat it like a business, are proactive about all the maintenance. It's their investment. It's their livelihood. Make sure they're, pre-trip, post-trip, like doing everything. Their paperwork is in order, right? With FMCSA, make sure this stuff's all out there. It's like public, right? You can go on FMCSA and see what best practices are. And I'm not going to say they're a joke, but they're really relaxed. Like, to be better than what the recommended is really easy. And like, when you do that, all of a sudden you become more defendable in court. All of a sudden the insurance company actually can defend you. Don't turn in small tic-tac claims. If it's something that's a couple $1,000 for like, let's say a windshield or something like that, just take care of it and do that. Leave insurance for the big stuff, or for the experts to come in and actually defend you. Once you get into mid-size fleet and fleets, it's a little bit different, because it starts from the moment you like build the company, right? Do you have a handbook? What's your culture? Is a culture of safety? Is a culture of like being mindful and aware to like protect the public and the general public, right? As you're going. So the moment you hire someone, what is the minimum standards of who you hire? Do you drive test them? Do you background check them? I mean, obviously they got to get drug testing and all that kind of stuff now. How do they handle their operating procedures for conveyance, personal conveyance, or just all the different things that come with running that is going to start there. Then moving into technology, safety, just like everything as a whole. And then obviously the vehicle maintenance is the biggest thing. You can have older equipment. That's fine. It's great. There's some beautiful old trucks out there, but like you got to take care of them. They can't be just having problem after problem, because what happens is that compound and snowballs into a green light going to the scales to where you're probably not going to get picked on, to a yellow light, which is, hey, an optional inspect, like we're going to maybe do this, but more than likely you're going to. Then once you have a problem or a compounding problem, to a mandatory. So every time you hit a scale, you're going in, and then all of a sudden it kind of cascades out of control because they start nitpicking. And next thing you know, your safety scores just go through the roof. And you see this as a broker, right? You can look at CAB, you can look at these reports. It does impact who you want to work with, because if I got company A and company B, and company A is great, they have minimal out of services, they're operating, their safety scores are phenomenal, versus company B, it's like a question if that load is going to get there on time or at all. Are they going to get placed out of service because their equipment is shit? So you as a broker, you're going to probably preference that anyway, right? And I know when you're getting contracts and things, big players, you know, they look at all that kind of stuff. So it all starts there. There's specific strategies that we deep dive. The renewal starts 120 days before, where you're looking at FMCSA, you're looking at your biannual updates, you're looking at, does the story match? Can I sell you to the insurance company and what you got going? Are we on the same page? Is it open communication? There's so many things that are just like, I can't really unpack in like a bite-sized clip, but there's a lot you can do, though. There really is. Captive insurance is huge. I know you and I have chatted about that. So me conditioning these fleets to get to a captive, to where you now no longer are renting an insurance policy, you own an insurance policy. You actually have say in what the dollars do. You actually have stability. So when you do talk about, hey, is it a fixed cost on the P&L? It's pretty fixed once you get to some of those levels. It does move slightly based on what you actually do, but it's predictable. So you have control over it. So that's usually, though, you're probably talking, 20 to 25 units and up is going to open up that world for you. So if you're, 10 trucks with ambitions to kind of get there, setting that foundation now, coming up with the game plans, doing everything correct now, and just fundamentally doing it right will set you up for success like a little bit later on. And that's the stuff that we try to help with. So,
yeah, dude, I think that is, that's possible. I hope it's not overlooked, but that might be an overlooked piece of advice that sets people up for more future success, right? Like, I treat my business today as $1 billion organization. Yeah. I truly do. People can laugh at that when they hear that, but I treat this, my business partner treats this as we are in charge of $1 billion P&L right now. And we attack it that way because, like, we are putting and building our foundation now. So when we're there, we have it and when we're ready to go with it. And we're, and this is just the track record that has worked out inside of our business for these last couple of years here, where we attack it this way and we approach it this way because ultimately we want to be here when it happens. We want to be prepared for it. When people, because like, again, you guys, in the real world where I operate, when I go and work with my bank on stuff, guess what? You guys, guess what they're asking for? They're asking for a lot of shit, right? And it's a lot easier to set the tone and set that culture when it's just you, or just 2 people or 3 people, than it's going to be when you have 25 trucks, 50 trucks. And then all of a sudden you want to start implementing a lot of these things that come along with it. It's a lot harder to change the trajectory at that time, as opposed to setting the tone right away and holding yourself to those standards, because ultimately that's what you need to do. Because this fallacy out there that's on social media right now is because you started a business, all of a sudden you just got all this shit figured out and you're just a fucking millionaire. You have to create your own processes. You have to create your own systems, and then you have to operate inside of those systems, and then you have to make changes when those systems ultimately don't work out, because very rarely are you going to choose the right way fucking right away. It's all from trial and error and everything that comes along with it. So what Cam is saying is say you're an owner op right now, or maybe you got 2 trucks or 3 trucks. You need to, and you want to grow. You have those aspirations where you're like, fuck, I want to have 50 trucks or 500 trucks one day, whatever that looks like. What Cam is saying is it's easier to start planning for that today, to set that foundation for when it happens, as opposed to when you get there, then you got to blow everything up and rebuild it up from the ground up.
Yep. And I think that's seeking mentorship. I think it's seeking guidance. I think it's like trusting your professional corner is what I'll call it with legal advice, right? I don't love attorneys. Nobody loves attorneys, but having a good one on your side is a must. Insurance too. I know that it's kind of been commoditized to where people really think, hey, I can go online, I can click a few buttons. If I unclick this, my price goes down $3,000. I click it, it goes up. Fuck it, unclick it, let's buy it. And then all of a sudden they got the claim and they're like, man, I'm so glad that I saved money on insurance. And then they're like, am I covered? Or they're all of a sudden worried if they're actually covered, and they don't maybe have, let's say, somebody in their corner that is, and I don't want to say expert, but like is knowledgeable, like has a basic understanding of what truckers do on the day-to-day, or freight brokers, or whoever the client is, and what the actual policies may or may not cover in those possible exposures based on what they actually do. So I think a lot of times, like, we get this a bunch when we're going through kind of initial discovery and trying to understand, what your needs are, whoever's needs would be, is like, we ask, like, hey, what are your goals? Like, what are you wanting to do? Where are you wanting to go? How are you doing that? How are you set up? How are you managing the growth? If you do want to go from 1 truck to 5 trucks, that's exponentially more hats that you got to wear if you're not set up to do it properly. And if, let's say, you do it with owner operators or independent contractors, you've got to have a good vetting process, because they're out using your DOT, your business, your reputation's on the line. All that driver has to do, they can just pile something up or mess it all up, walk away, go get another job. They don't care, dude. You're the one with the name on the door. You care. So like, there's all these things that you got to be aware of as you go through it. So like, when we're discovering that, figuring out what they're going to do, we just try to best align a path and like show them, hey, we've got resources, we've got connections. If you need help, or here's some things that we know could be potential pitfalls, or that we know are important at these stages, because we've worked with owner ops to large fleets and everything in between, and have taken owner ops to fleets, or whatever their journey looks like. So we know how to navigate from our side. We do stay in our lane. Like, I'm not gonna pretend I know tax law or all this other kind of stuff, but I'll send them where they need to go and be like, hey, talk to X, do this, or like, I would think about this. Like, I'm not an attorney, and as your attorney, I advise you to go talk to someone if I was an attorney, but I'm not. So I'm not legal guidance, but I just tell them what we know and our perspective. Like, we truly try to be a partner. That way, come claim time, we're an advocate for the client. Like, we work with all the insurance companies. We have great relationships with the top and the best insurance companies for the transportation market, but we don't work for them. Like, the client is still our client at the end of the day. At the end of the day, my best interest is you staying in business, you having a good game plan, you not having to close your doors because of a claim, or at least being educated to what it is you're buying. So if you choose, hey, I don't want coverage for that, that's cool. I'm going to remind you when you have a claim that we talked about this. And then at that time, you can then decide, okay, I should probably buy that coverage because that sucked. I paying $50K out of pocket really sucked. So let's figure that out. But I'm going to just be there as an advocate and a partner, and really try to kind of champion the client to do what they're trying to achieve. I'm an entrepreneur as well. We're all in the same boat. Like, I've been invested and diversified into plenty of businesses, and have, almost 2 decades of insurance now, experience now, to where, I've seen a lot, right? Not everything. I'm never going to claim that. I learn something new every day, but we've been around, so we have a decent understanding of what's happening. So,
dude, I love it, man. And I want to. So one thing that came, and I sent you the link to this article. So, President-elect Trump, excuse me, he finally chose somebody to head the DOT, right? And I think that this is a positive step in the right direction, because like, ultimately we need to, with an administration change, there's a lot of stuff that could go into affecting the day-to-day business, insurance rates, right? Like, and there's a lot of stuff that, over the last 4 years, people can say, hey, these rates are up in this direction and that direction. And now, once, President-elect Trump gets into office, sets his cabinet, they all get nominated. So, one thing I do want to put out there, you guys, just because you see somebody's name does not mean, like, they still have to go in, they still have to secure Senate approval and everything else. So there's still some hurdles to overcome here with this, but I think that it's a positive step in the right direction here. So this came from ttnews.com. You guys, if you guys want to check this out, it's Trump chooses former Congressman Sean Duffy for DOT chief. I'm a massive fan of Sean Duffy. He's from Wisconsin. So, naturally there's that Wisconsin connection, but he was a Wisconsin congressman for like 10 years. He's got a very solid track record out there. But he goes on to say Sean will use his experience in relationships he has built over many years in Congress to maintain and rebuild our infrastructure and re-usher in the golden age of travel. Chris Spear from the ATA, he said that he is in support of Duffy as well, saying that he's got pro-trucking policies to strengthen our supply chain. And then roads and bridges are our shop floor. Spears says, we know Congressman Duffy understands that and the opportunity now to improve our transportation network by reducing congestion, investing in truck parking, enhancing in highway safety, and supporting the development of innovative technologies. And I think that, from my perspective, this is something that, talking about our nation's infrastructure, for example, there was that $1 trillion IIJA infrastructure investment bill that was out there that admittedly, I don't think anybody has seen any bump to our industry in regards to freight volume and everything else that's out there. So I just want, from my perspective, and I know, there's a lot of people who can make the argument that Sean Duffy never drove, he's never been a part of the industry and everything else. But I think anybody, you got to understand a lot of these top picks for these roles inside of any administrations are like personal favors. Like let's call them what it is, right? Very rarely are you going to get somebody in there that has 30 years trucking experience or 30 years experience working at the ports to come in and run any of that at that level. But, again, like from your perspective, man, what is something that a new transportation focused department, DOT boss, what can that do to the insurance agent or like the insurance world?
I think, first of all, I think it's a positive, and I'm an acquaintance with Chris Spears. So if you want to talk about a bulldog and a champion of the trucking industry, that dude is like the kingpin of that. Like that dude is
I agree.
So if he endorses it and he talks about how it's going to be a positive, I take a ton of respect out of that. And I'm going to follow that and say, hey, this is a good thing ultimately, like 100%. And I think if they can get back to the actual investment in infrastructure, as like the article alludes to or mentions, I think it just shows the mindset of the current administration, which I feel like everyone knows anyway, what the intent is, to where it's not going to be, you have to be aware of the EV focus and the infrastructure and all that. Like it's a thing, like it's regardless of what people feel about it. I think it'll be that, but I think it's going to then take and jump into the bridges, which is is comical at this point for like the last time updates have actually occurred. Federal motorways, you start widening some of those things. You then attack, let's say, the parking issues, all the things that are going to just benefit everybody for safer conditions, road conditions and stuff like that. Ultimately, that will help reduce and drive some of that cost, because a product of what we got the last couple of years is pre-COVID, everyone was pretty stable on the trends for speed of driving and usage of the roadways and that kind of stuff. But now that people work from home and they went through COVID and the roads were empty, the average speeds ticked way up. More people came back out after COVID kind of subsided a touch, and like people were back on the roads again, moving again. Well, now everybody working at home. I drove to Costco the other day. Parking lot's full, dude. It's literally the middle of the day. I'm like, does anybody work? Or are they all working from home right now? I don't know what's happening. But like, there's so many more people, so many more four-wheelers on the road, and they're driving fast, or they forgot how to drive. I swear, like you guys don't have snow, but man, get in a place that has snow. You're like, have these people ever driven ever?
Dude, I see that all the time, man. I see that. Like we have that down here anytime that the weather is not sunny. It's an absolute nightmare out there. But, I think it's what's going to be interesting to see with an appointment like this to kind of come in, having a track record of actually being in Congress for a long time. And, 10 years is a long time, out there. But like, I think that it's going to be interesting to see. And again, I would have to do a ton more research into him as a individual and everything else. I know that, just based on the fact that he's from Northern Wisconsin, I'm from Northern Wisconsin, he's automatically cool in my book. But, I look at it as, results matter, right? Like I am so over the talk, the typical political BS that comes out of DC and everything else. We need fucking actual results, right? And this is why you need to hold your people accountable, right? You need to hold your elected officials accountable. If people, like, you cannot sit back and just let them sit there and bilk the system anymore. If there are no results, you got to get them the fuck out. It's plain and simple. Call your local congressman. I tell people this, not all the time, because this show's about freight, but ultimately, call your local congressman. It's very easy to find out who that. Just Google who is my representative in the state that you live in, and you can see that really quick, and then let them know about this stuff, you guys. Like, you need it. It's gotten back to the point where we need to, I think, remind these politicians that they work for us, and it's not the other way around. I don't work for them. And if we don't like certain things and certain results, we need to do something about it. We need to say something about it. And let's call it what it is. Our infrastructure inside of our country is fucking pathetic. All right. It is pathetic when it boils down to it. Just go to an airport. All right. Go to any airport out there and tell me that it's a good experience. The nicest airport I've been to in the last 12 months, Kansas City, plain and simple, because it was just built. All right. But the rest of them are fucking atrocious. All right. We got to get a fucking facelift in there, you guys. And we got to get people who are America first in there to help us rebuild a lot of this stuff. But it's going to be interesting to see here with a lot of these appointments on who's going to get approved and everything else and what's going to happen. But frankly, we got to get to work here. We got to make this stuff happen, and we got to get our country back in fucking line with this stuff. But speaking of getting to work, that's it for the show for today, man. That's 30 minutes. And
we're back.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. And but Cam, how does anybody reach out to you though, man? How, like, if they got any questions, anybody who's listening to this show, if they're like, dude, I just have a question about my policy. You might not be my agent. How do they reach out to you to find out more?
I think they usually call you and then you forward them to me via cell phone. That's about how that works typically. Yeah. But honestly, LinkedIn's good. Email will be fine. So Cameron, CAMERON at valleytruckinginsurance.com is a great way. You know what I'm going to end up doing too? I'm going to actually just put the Freight Coach link on my website so that people could go there. I'll put some experience stuff on there and what they're interested in finding out about. So that way we can just have a link that directly will correlate from your show onto us. So I'll work on that too.
Perfect. I love it, man. And that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be talking tariffs tomorrow because tariffs are all over the news right now. And I'm going to have somebody come on who is going to talk about that at a way more in-depth level than I'm able to. But that will be it for today, you guys. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.